And again, you will pardon me, and I say it advisedly for reading this ad, but I don't know of any other way to get the idea across to you. You see this? All see that? Now this is advertising some beauty product. Now listen to this ad. Tell me, is this natural beauty or artificial? Is it true or false? Is it genuine or counterfeit? The look is in. Fashion's new way to play up your eyes. Brighter in color, bolder in shape. Why would any girl or woman want bolder eyes? It wouldn't be somebody that had been reading Paul's counsel in 1 Timothy 2:9, would it? Women are to adorn themselves in modest apparel with what? Shamefaced. But here is the way to have bolder looking eyes. Give in to your divine restlessness with every look in the book. Now for the first time the color, shape, and size of your eyes are absolutely up to you. If you don't like the way God made you, in other words, there's something you can do about it. I read on. A whole new world of tantalizing fashion colors to play with. Turn your eyes from baby blue to jungle green to glittery gold and back again. Scads of devastating new ideas to shape your eyes to your fancy. Crave almond eyes, blush on a ribbon of new liquid eyeliner above your lashes. Flirty eyes, just flutter on such and such. Tiger eyes, something else to put on. Jewel eyes, tip your lashes with gold, with silver. Is the wizard of fashion your entree to excitement? Now, if you're a daughter of Zion, are you going to go get that? No, you say, Brother Frazee, that's going too far. Yes, I think that probably is going too far for anybody here. But I want to tell you something, folks. If we go down that road, it's only a matter of time till we get there, that's all. And what I've just showed you in this ad isn't the first station on the road. It's a long way down the road, but there are stations a lot closer. Now I want to ask you something. You're training to be medical missionary workers. Here you're a Bible worker. You're trying to help somebody get away from the fashions and customs of the world. You've got to deal tenderly with them and carefully. But somewhere along the line you long to see that lipstick come off their lips, that rouge off their cheeks. Am I correct, do you? But suppose, you girls and you women that work with these folks, somewhere along the line as that question comes up, they say to you, watch this. They say, yes, but now why do I need to take that off? What do you got to say? You say, well, that's just worldly. And you may say after you've heard this lesson this afternoon, yes, but that's artificial. That's artificial. That's not natural beauty. But now watch as the answer comes back. Suppose they say to you, yes, I can see if I'd put on purple lipstick, and there is such, or green or orange or some other outlandish color, I can see that wouldn't be right. But lips are supposed to be red. And I'm just trying to make my lips like I think they ought to look anyway. I don't want my friends to think that I'm so pale, and so I'd like to put on just a little rouge on my cheeks and just a little lipstick on my lips. What would you say? Think that over. You may want to discuss it in a discussion group. Don't be too quick or too glib with your answer. I heard one of our most successful evangelists at a large workers' meeting just a few weeks ago say this. He said we need, if we're going to help young people, to quit sending deaconesses out to work with a backslidden young person that tries to get the paint off of her face and she's got her hair dyed. That's what he said. He says that backslidden girl can think, and she thinks, what's the difference? If I have the color on my face, that's bad, but if I put it in my hair, that's okay. Now, this isn't something I said. I'm quoting one of our most successful evangelists. That's the problem that he raised. We need to think through the principles involved, folks. And by the way, if you think that it's really wrong to put color on the cheeks, even though it's the same color that ought to be there, what are you going to say when that worldly young person that you're trying to help says to you, yes, but what about your hair? Is that really natural what you've got in your hair, or did you get that at the beauty shop? Or did you fix it up that way? And if you can fix up your hair to look like something that isn't natural, why can't I fix up my cheeks to look like something that I think is natural? How will you answer that? Are those fair questions? Are they reasonable questions? Think them through. I think we ought to be at least consistent. What do you say? And if we reserve for ourselves the privilege of fixing up ourselves in unnatural, artificial ways that deform and twist, let's be pretty slow about condemning somebody that does the same thing in a little different way, whether it's in Africa or America. What do you say, Frank? And this applies from head to feet. And let's go to the feet for a minute. We've been looking at the head. I want to ask you something, Frank. From the standpoint of marring the body, which do you think hurts the body most? Those savages over in Africa putting a lobe in their ears, or the shoes that modern America is wearing? Which do you think really hurts the body more? I'll take the ear. No. It hurt a little, you know, to start with, but my. Think of the miles of aching trips that people are taking just in walking from the refrigerator to the range. Aching feet, aching feet. A number of years ago, the General Conference put out a little pamphlet called Standards of Christian Living. Among the recommendations was this: as a matter of health as well as of beauty and utility, low-heeled shoes should be worn. High heels, by throwing the body off balance, cause strain which often result in serious physical disorders, while it takes a distorted sense of beauty to find any grace either in the shoe or in the posture and walk of the wearer. Page 15 and 16 of the pamphlet by the General Conference Committee entitled Standards of Christian Living. Now, since this is based on anatomy, friend, that principle won't go out of date, will it? No. But you know, somebody says, oh, I know, and I wouldn't wear high heels. I wouldn't wear high heels. You remember what Sister White wrote there in Volume 1 about people that wouldn't wear hoops? That is, they wouldn't wear big hoops. They wore little hoops. And then somebody saw the ones that wore the little hoops, and they said if it's all right for them to wear hoops, why, I can wear hoops, and so they wore them a little bigger, and so on. You remember? Shall I tell you something interesting? Dr. Harding, one of the professors at our Loma Linda Medical College, has brought out some very interesting evidence that what are called medium-sized heels are actually more damaging to the body in some ways than the high heel. Do you know why? Well, you look at it and you see it's very simple. As the heel is raised, it tends to throw you out of line. If you get a high enough heel, you have to get back to keep from falling over on your face. See? And so the medium heel is not high enough to throw you clear over on your face, and not high enough to make you tilt back to keep from falling over. And so it throws some parts of the body more out of line than even the highest heels. And the point that I have made is still more important when you remember that there are some people that use the very high heels only for occasions when they're really not walking very much. But they use what they call the medium heels for their more extensive walking. Something to think about. We've gone from the head clear to the feet, haven't we? And then think of these pinched toes today. Why, I have a book by Fisher and Fisk of Yale University, How to Live. It's gone through over 20 editions. It's one of the most famous texts on personal hygiene in America. It shows pictures from old China of the pinched toes that the Chinese women used to have. They don't have many more. And then it goes on to show that the feet of American women are tortured by the shoes, the heels and the toes. Oh, but somebody says a round-toed, flat-heeled shoe. Oh, it doesn't look nice. Doesn't look nice. It brings us back to the question that we posed in our first lesson, what is beauty? And who will decide what is beauty? Beauty of hair? Beauty of eye? Beauty of posture? Is there a verse in the Bible about beautiful feet even? Where is it? Oh, yeah. The 52nd chapter of Isaiah. Oh, and I want you to think about it, friends. Isaiah 52:7. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. And I submit to you that feet that travel the mountains couldn't use some of the footgear that's fashionable today. Am I correct? But God says that those are beautiful feet. Beautiful feet. Now, may I mention one or two other things that may be helpful right along this line? Nail polish trouble. Dr. Yaffe, the dermatologist of the Presbyterian Hospital in Chicago, examined a woman patient who had strange brownish red fingernails. Her nails became separated from the bed, turned thin, brittle, and dead white, and finally buckled into a cylindrical shape. the doctor discovered that every 2 weeks for 4 months she had been using one of the new base nail polishes, a foundation which fixes the colored polish and prevents chipping. And then Dr. Yaffe and his associates at the University of Illinois College of Medicine began to observe. They found 10 similar cases of nail damage, and they sent out a questionnaire to 234 doctors, and they brought in 128 other returns in the Chicago area. Not all users of these bases are affected, Dr. Yaffe said. Isn't that nice? They don't all get hurt that way. After 4 months, his first patient still has badly discolored and misshapen nails. As Dr. Yaffe puts it, the polish may stay on, but at the same time the nails come off. Now, is that marring the body? But why did they do it? To be beautiful. Poor souls, friends, trying to spend money for beauty. And the answer, God help us, the answer is not to get a harmless nail polish. The answer is to cure the basic quest, isn't it? That's the thing. Take another one. This one is on the hair. Here's an article in the medicine section of Newsweek, April 23, 1962. That's not very long ago. The heading is, "Are Hairsprays Safe?" Why do people use hairspray? Well, to be beautiful, according to the accepted standards. If we were in Africa, we wouldn't use that. We'd use what that woman used to fix her hair up. But here they use these hairsprays. Hairsprays safe. Hairsprays, this article says, which have become nearly as indispensable to well-groomed women as bobby pins, coat the hair with a thin layer of resin designed to make permanence more permanent. But 3 St. Louis physicians last week produced evidence that the handy sprays good for the coiffure may be bad for the lungs, producing inflammation of the lungs, causing people to suffer from lung inflammation, cough, shortness of breath. In nearly all the cases, the inflammation disappeared when the women stopped using hairspray, Dr. Bergman said. Isn't that strange? But 3 of the women died with evidence of acute lung inflammation. Think of it. Sacrificed on the altar of the goddess of fashion. Well, I could go on with other evidence on these various modern hair treatments. Do you remember what the 3rd chapter of Isaiah is about? The last few verses? It's about the daughters of Zion in the last days that have thought about dress and display. That's right, sister. It talks about well-set hair there. Did you ever read that in Isaiah 3? Take a look at it right now. And then I want to call your attention to something else it says is going to happen as the result. And then I'm going to read you something here from a medical report. Dr. Scharfenberg was bringing us last night some things about what additives in food are doing to America's health. Well, these are additives to the hair and the fingernails and other parts, you see. But they're not any better. All right. 3rd chapter of Isaiah, 24th verse. The passage begins with the 16th verse about the daughters of Zion that are haughty and are all dressed up. down through these verses, 24th verse. It shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell there shall be stink, and instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of well-set hair, baldness. Did you know where well-set hair came from? It didn't start out, friends, with Paris or New York. I have an interesting statement here from the Review and Herald that the Egyptians were the first ones to practice it. And they used various materials, but that's where the well-set hair came from. Other translations give it curled hair. Now, this says that as a result, instead of well-set hair, there's going to be what? Baldness. All right. Here's from the medicine section of the Newsweek of May 23, 1960. Succeeding generations of women are losing their crowning glory at a disturbing rate. It is a startling fact that 15 to 20% of all females past adolescence and many still in their teens are afflicted either by partial hair thinning or early baldness. Dr. Lubo wrote. The major causes? Here are the causes, the doctor says. First, improper use of home permanent preparations. 2, cheap hair dyes. 3, excessive use of strong lacquers and hairsprays to set unruly locks. The word set is interesting. Do you see it there in your Bible? Well-set hair. 4, ponytail hairdos which put traction on the roots. 5, pressure from pin curlers left on overnight. All right. Well, somebody says, I know so-and-so that's used such and such all their lives, and they're not bald. Yes, and I know so-and-so that's used tobacco all his life, and he's 80 years old and not dead yet, too. QED. The worst thing about all these things is not that they kill, they do what? Distort, mar, pervert. Now, I want to take you back 1900 years to the early church. You've read there in 1 Timothy 2, 9 and 10, 1 Peter 3, 3 and 4, the warnings of the apostles Peter and Paul against what? What they warn against in those verses. Gold and pearls and what? Costly array and what else? Braided hair. Did you ever wonder what that was? Somebody says, yes, that's braided hair, so people shouldn't braid their hair. Don't be so fast, friends. Let me pass around a picture for you to look at, and you'll see what the apostle was talking about. He wasn't talking about simple braided hair at all. He was talking about fashions and customs that came there in the terrible extravagance of the Roman Empire, in which people went to great lengths in curling and braiding the hair and waving into it all sorts of gold and silver ornaments. If you'll pass this along quickly, just take a look at the hairstyles and you'll see what Paul and Peter are talking about. And while you're looking at that, I want to read you a statement from one of the early Christian leaders. This is found in a book called The Conflict of Christianity, pages 181 and 182. It begins with 179. I got this particular quotation from one of our General Conference workers. Now remember, this is a voice not in America in the 20th century, but way back in the Bible lands in the first ages of Christianity. And as you look at that picture, listen while I read. And this isn't something about what he said. This is what he said. Listen. The Lord has said, "Which of you can make one hair white or black?" They refute God. "Behold," say they, "instead of white or black hair, we make it auburn, so that it is more attractive." What service does so much labor spent in arranging the hair render to salvation? Why is no rest allowed to your hair, which must be bound, now loosed, now raised up, now pressed flat? Some are anxious to force their hair into curls, others, with seeming yet not commendable simplicity, to let it fall loose and fly. Nay, rather banish from your free head all this slavery of ornamentation. In that day of Christian exaltation I shall see whether you will rise with your white and red and yellow pigments, and in all that parade of headgear, whether the angels will carry women thus tricked out to meet Christ in the air. Keep yourselves now from those things which are condemned. Today let God see you such as he will see you then. So you see, friends, this is no new problem. It's an age-old problem. Fashion's like a wheel. It just keeps running round and round. Now, I have spent some time on certain details this afternoon, but I don't want you to think either one of two things. I don't want you to think that because I have omitted certain things that they don't make any difference. Neither do I want you to think that because I have mentioned certain things that they are more important. Not at all. These are merely illustrations. And with just a little thinking and prayer, you can think of a dozen other things that haven't been mentioned at all this afternoon that might be more important than anything that has. What is it we're studying in this class? The beautiful way. Why? Because we want to be like Jesus and make him happy and get ready to live with him that beautiful life forever. And because down here in this world we want to cheer him by showing that we appreciate his way, his beautiful way. We're worshiping him that made us. And instead of telling him we don't like the way he made us, we're going to say, "Lord, I'm sorry for any deformity that sin and Satan have made, but Lord, I'm going to do the best I can to dress the garden and keep it. And I'm not going around with a spray gun and make pink trees and blue ones and purple ones. I'm not going around with crimping irons and take flowers that are straight and make them curly. Whatever God has made me, I'm going to make it the very best appearance I can." Now, in closing, I give you this little text from 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter. 1 Corinthians 15. And this is the key to several questions that may be in your mind. 1 Corinthians 15:41. Altogether, there is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. Is that really true? When God makes his beautiful plan, every star is what? Different. That's the difference between God's stars and man's stars. There are stars in Hollywood, and they shine on the screens of America, and 1,000,000 women and girls run to the beauty shop to look like the current star. She may be in the White House instead of in Hollywood, but wherever she is, she's the rage of the moment. But when God makes stars, He thinks so much of each one that He makes a special pattern for that one. Does God love you that much, my dear young people and older ones? Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to find out God's pattern for your life? And Paris and Hollywood can't tell you. They've got a few different styles, but they don't have 100 million different ones. I remember a young woman here several years ago. She was having a time with her hair. Seems to be a problem with some. She tried this and she tried that. And really, friends, some of them were a bit distressing, but I don't think anybody said anything. She was trying out. But you know what she did one day? I heard about it afterwards. I didn't know about it before. She got down on her knees and said, "Dear Lord, I want to please you. How do you want me to wear my hair?" You can explain it any way you want to, my dear friends, but the Lord showed her how He wanted her to wear her hair. She just seemed to see it. I don't mean she thought she was a prophet and had a vision. I don't mean that. But I mean the Lord, in the way that He knew how to reach her mind, showed her something. And I just have to tell you, friends, that when she came out with her hair done that way, she looked like a queen. Yes, she did. And that doesn't mean I want somebody to come up afterward and say, "Tell me how she did it so I can do mine that way." Because you might not look good that way at all. My text says, "One star differeth from another star in glory." Thank God they haven't found any way yet to dye blue-white Sirius so it looks like red Antares or Betelgeuse. Every star has its peculiar glory. And in God's great firmament, He wants His stars, His young men and young women and older ones too, to shine each with its own glory, its own beauty. Paris and Hollywood won't help you reach that goal. Jesus will, if you seek Him. Well, I leave it with you all to study. And may I add what I said the other day regarding other subjects. These beautiful subjects are not to use to hurt anybody with, to whip anybody with, to condemn anybody, to judge anybody. They're for you to study personally and ask God to help you to know what He wants you to do, to live the beautiful life and walk the beautiful way. Shall we stand for benediction? Dr. Scharfenberg, will you dismiss us, please?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this instruction. We thank Thee that we were made in Thy image. And we pray that Thou will help each one of us to keep ourselves that way. Help us to walk the beautiful way for Jesus' sake. Amen.
Time.